Okay, it's Henry again, and this is going to be my work in progress video for the p-bandai Master Grade Gundam Heavyarms Custom EW. And this is a p-bandai kit that came out in 2016. Basically just a recolor of the original Heavyarms EW, but it's got two twin Gatling guns instead of the large single Gatling gun. And this is the one that was seen in the movie Endless Waltz. And as far as the paint job goes, for this kit I'm going to stick to the original color scheme, just like with the Ultron Gundam that I did. I'm going to go back to those old 1:144 scale high grade photos of the Endless Waltz kits from back in the 90s, and you see how it's got a lot of like weathering and like burn marks and pigment work done on it. Just a really dark, kind of edgelord looking mobile suit. So that's what I'm going to be replicating for this guy, although my weathering is going to be a bit more than what they did in the model kit manuals back in 1997. So chipping, wash, dry brushing, pigments, whole 9 yards. And I'm just going to stick to the standard color scheme again and basically be a matching suit to the Ultron that I just finished. And for the panel lining on this kit, I'm just going over the entire kit with a wash. These dark blue parts is not really showing up very much, but it will on the white and the blue-green and the yellow parts. So I'm going to do weathering on this kit really similar to what I did on the Ultron Gundam. Sort of along the same lines. And yeah, this part's actually kind of boring, but necessary nonetheless. Alright, so I'm getting started on Heavyarms decals. A fairly sizable sheet of decals, water slides, since it is a p-bandai kit. Basically the exact same decals that came on the Master Grade Heavyarms EW, only recolored for the different darker color scheme. And we've got a few new decals for the twin Gatling guns down here, so those ought to be pretty fun to apply. Okay, and now I am just doing some dry brushing on this kit. Usually when I do dry brushing, I do kind of just a light, dusty, sandy color all over the kit. But this time around I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm using the colors that are basically, I'm dry brushing with a lighter version of the base color. Like this whole missile pod here is a dark blue, so I'm dry brushing with a brighter blue. So that way it maintains the color. It doesn't make the part look, it doesn't, I don't know how I want to phrase this, it doesn't wash out the color. Because if you just use one color, it sort of tends to make the colors look a bit dusty and washed out and faded, which can be good if you want to go for that sort of look. But for this one, I'm using just a lighter version of the color that the part is supposed to be. So using dark blue or using bright blue for this dark blue missile pod. And you can sort of see the effect there. I think the head turned out particularly nice. Let me zoom in on it. I used a light blue-green for the head. There we go. Really liking the way that's turning out. You can see the dry brushing there. Didn't want to get too crazy with it. Dry brushing is all about subtlety. If you get too heavy, it loses its effectiveness and just looks sort of cheap and unrealistic. So I've got a bit more of this to go, and then I can move on to chipping. And just doing some chipping on Heavyarms. I'm doing two different shades of chipping. I've already done the dark chipping on the light colored parts. And now I'm doing some lighter chipping on the dark colored parts. Just switching it up so that the chipping will show up a little bit better on the respective parts. Using a toothpick this time around. I think it gives me a little bit more control. Oops, I just realized everything I was doing was not in the camera frame. Anyway, using the toothpick gives me a little bit more control than with a small paintbrush. So pretty much just going along and dotting the edges, any raised areas, any places that might come in contact with other pieces of metal pretty often. Like these doors for the chest Gatling guns, these are going to be opening and closing constantly. So it's natural that paint is going to wear off on the edges of these parts pretty quickly and pretty heavily. So to make sure the edges of these are nice and worn down. And just like on the Ultron Gundam, I'm just doing some pigments on Heavyarms around the feet, making him look nice and dusty, like he's been walking through a battlefield. Some of the low-lying areas, bottom of these missile pods, will probably get a bit of dust on them. And before I start top coating, I did want to show off the little bit of hand brushing I had to do. There's the little clown mask that'll go over half of Heavyarms' face, as well as the pilot figures. There's the little Troa Barton. Let's see, come on. There we go, that's better. There's the little Troa Barton, and then the standing version. So basically just painting these with a really, really small paintbrush and a really steady hand. Pretty much have to hold your breath whenever you make a stroke with the paintbrush. But they come out looking halfway decent. Okay, now that the top coat is finished, Heavyarms is finally complete. Pretty good paint job on this, if I do say so myself. I think I'm a bit happier with this one than I was with Ultron. Still a few little things here and there that could use some work, but generally a bit better than the Ultron, I think. Weathering turned out pretty snazzy. Just the colors are very, very nice, very dark. Very dirty and grungy, and just overall I think a reasonably good job on this guy. Figure I'll open these up, show off the missiles and stuff. The missiles are originally painted in a light gray, and then I went over them with some dark gray pigment powder, and that darkened them up a bit more than I would have liked. So now the missiles are kind of a medium dark gray color, where originally they were a light gray. So not quite the original color I intended, but they still look pretty good, I think. I don't know. I like gray missiles on my Heavyarms. I see a lot of people do different colors, like red and like all kind of, like on my first Heavyarms EW I did the missiles in tan, and I thought it was a good idea at first, but the more I looked at it, the less I liked it. So this time around I decided just to stick to gray. I think my favorite part though is the bluing, the color change on the barrels of the Gatling guns there. Similar to what I did on my little Origin gun tank a few months ago. I just looked up the different ways that steel changes color when it heats up, and then I applied that color change to the barrels of the machine guns there. So I think that turned out really, really nice. And I tried not to make the color too intense. I tried to keep it relatively subtle and I think I did an okay job of that. So that about does it for this video and for the Heavyarms Custom Master Grade. Just like with Ultron, I'll upload a video discussing everything I did to the kit and then showing off some photos. So with that, I'll see you guys next time.